guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. Today, we're going to go over my balance change wish list, but I also want to share some news with you guys because my list is going to be altered a little bit based on this new information that actually just came out a couple hours ago from the time of this recording. So let's look at these screenshots here. 4 of them from Seth, aka the Rumham. He is the balance guru, the designer on the Clash Royale Supercell team. So he said 2 hours ago, in response to somebody asking about the Expo, what are they going to do about Expo? There's no doubt about it. It was originally on my list of cards that did need a buff. However, it's not going to make the list because the Rumham says, as you guys can see, we looked at the stats of Siege, or the state, excuse me, of Siege cards. I don't foresee a direct buff to Expo, but rather to the other cards in the deck, while reining in beatdown in bridge spam decks. So what does that mean to me? The biggest, well, we'll get to my list in a second. So no Expo buff is what it definitely means. Number 2 is, responding to Monk Clash a few days ago, he said, I did read it, trying to decide what to do with the Tesla, Inferno Tower, Furnace, and Tombstone. All 4 may not be changed, but I am looking at defensive buildings this month. Meaning that, well, he's going to balance defensive buildings. The 4 that he mentioned, he said that not all 4 may be touched, but definitely going to be taking a look at those defensive units, the spawners, the Tombstone, and of course the Tesla, Inferno Tower, and Furnace as well. The next one here, 6 hours ago now, from the time of this recording at least, he says the November 5th balance changes will be the last one before CRL World Finals. We will be addressing a few powerful cards that are giving players tools to change the meta, but we don't want to massively upend everything. Some cards we want to change will wait until the December on purpose. Interesting here. He says the big ones will be Royal Recruits and Freeze. We have plans for both these cards, but in the interest of competitive integrity, both changes will be in the December balance changes after the CRL finals instead of risking them dunking on this year's highest stakes tournament. So Royal Recruits, another card on my list, guys, will not be on the list because the Rumham said he wants to wait for Freeze. Freeze is a weird card because at tournament level standard, a little bit underpowered. On ladder, especially the closer you get to max Freeze, an incredibly broken card in the opinion of yours truly. So I would expect maybe a rework on Freeze, but Royal Recruits, man, oh, still no love for Royal Recruits. I know not everybody loves the card, but still, man, they are the worst card in the game right now. It's a shame what happened, the trajectory of the Royal Recruits, in my opinion, how they went from dominant to dead, nowhere in between. Do you guys agree with the fact that Rumham sees cards that need balance? He just pointed 2 of them out. He wants to balance Freeze and he wants to balance the Recruits, but he's going to hold off on doing so just because of a competitive tournament. Obviously only affecting a few hundred players and of course the much larger audience watching in, while there are millions of players who would like those cards maybe balanced earlier when they deem it appropriate. So I throw it to you guys. Do you guys agree with this philosophy that they're holding back on balance changes for CRL, for the conclusion of CRL, which is a big $1 million tournament? Me personally, I'm okay with it. I am really into the competitive scene, and I wouldn't like Recruits to be incredibly OP, and then that's all we see in the finals. But I wanted to, again, throw the question to you guys. Are you guys cool with that, or is it something that maybe some of you guys just want them to balance cards when they deem it fit, not necessarily holding off because of competitive engagements? So again, guys, originally, as I said, Expo and Recruits were on my list, but I removed them. Both cards I think need a buff, but because they're definitely not coming, why waste my energy including them on the list? Instead, I found 2 new cards based on the information we already discussed to put on my list. So here we go. It's going to be starting with nerfs. The first thing I want to throw out there is I personally would nerf every single spell in the game. Yeah, I'm dropping bombs on you guys to start this video. I think that spells have gotten a little bit OP, a little bit out of control as a collective. Now, not every single spell like arrows and snowball, they don't really need to be nerfed, but I think that in general, I would probably decrease spell damage on tower by another, say, 5%. A pretty minor, small nerf, but I see the game slowly but steadily going in the direction of having a ton of spells in every deck, and every spell is incredibly important, and baiting out spells is incredibly important. I just want to give kind of a power check to spells, so I would, across the board, go ahead and nerf all spells by 5% on tower damage. I think that's important. How do you guys feel about the spell, controversy here? Well, it's not a controversy until you make it one, Ash. But personally, I think that they're a power creep on spells getting a little bit too out of control. So a little bit of a nerf to every single spell in the game. Now, other nerfs, Royal Ghost is, I'm going to throw a stat at you guys here. Royal Ghost, Tombstone, and Barb Barrel are the only 3 cards at tournament level standard with a higher than 20% use rate and a higher than 55% win rate. Only those 3 cards. And out of those 3 cards, personally, I think only one of them probably needs a small nerf. And it's the Royal Ghost. And I'm one of the biggest fans in the world of Royal Ghost. He is my favorite card in the game. I do not want to kill him. But I think, again, might need a little power check there. Maybe a little bit of a stat decrease. I think he holds the most versatility, the most strength in 3 elixir out of any card in the game. That's just my personal opinion. 2 people just unsubscribed, huge Royal Ghost fans. Nah, Ash, I ain't hearing that, bro. Boom, boom. But in all seriousness, guys, I do think the Royal Ghost needs a little bit of a nerf. Now, moving on the nerf list, based on what the Rumham said, he talked about nerfing Beatdown and helping and nerfing bridge spam. So nerfing bridge spam, nerfing beatdown, what do you think that means? I think personally, Battle Ram is going to be seeing a nerf, and that's probably a good thing. It's the only card that you see in, the giant Battle Ram deck, 3 Musketeer Battle Ram deck, Bridge Spam Battle Ram deck. So I'm going to call for maybe a very small nerf to the Battle Ram. Now, what other cards in beatdown could the Rumham possibly be talking about? Potentially the Baby Dragon, even though me personally, I think in a vacuum, Baby Dragon does not need a nerf. Maybe even the Prince, but me personally, I think the Prince is actually maybe a little bit on the powerful side, but it's not boxing out other cards such as Valkyrie and Knight. I'm still seeing those cards, so I'm going to go ahead and err on the side of not balancing the Prince. So my only 2 nerfs are going to be the Battle Ram and the Royal Ghost, and then plus all the spells. Now moving on to my buffs, because if I have 2 nerfs, I have 6 buffs, guys. And the first one's going to be the Bomber. They kind of alluded to the fact that they're going to rework the Bomber to 2 elixir in the last balance change poll. I think that would have been kind of interesting to see. The Bomber is a tough card. Oh, those 2 guys subscribed back. I knew you guys were only kidding. It's all good. Man, that's distracting in the corner of my of my purview here. But anyway, guys, Bomber I would like to see reworked. I would like to see him cost 2 elixir. Try him out, maybe a little bit less on the damage, but maybe a little bit more versatility in that 2 elixir slot. I would like to see that happen. Next up is Inferno Tower and the Tesla. We'll talk about both of the defensive units that I do think both need a buff. The Tesla it went from really OP to really UP. Really underpowered, guys. I don't think the Tesla is a good card right now, and that will indirectly buff Siege, just like Seth talked about at the opening of this video. So I'm going to say a Tesla will get a buff, and Inferno Tower will get a buff. 2 cards that you see in Siege decks here and there. So I think those are the 2 Siege buffs, along with Archers, the 3rd card I want to mention that fits into Siege archetypes. Archers is not a card that you think about often, at least I don't, and it's not a card that you think of as underpowered, needing a buff. But I think that all the support cards in the game have gotten better and better and better, and Archers may be lingering behind just slightly. And Archers, their #1 archetype is also, of course, Siege. So I think that Archers also deserve a little bit of a stat buff. What do you guys think about that? Archers, Tesla, and Inferno Tower as the Siege indirect buffs, even though, as you guys know, personally, I think the Expo should get a buff itself. Next up, we have the Goblin Giant. Goblin Giant is getting there. He appeared in a deck here or there. I think 3 Musketeer deck primarily, also a Sparky deck in CRL. However, there's no doubt about it. Based on the use rates, the average player, not the CRL Pro, still isn't going to have a ton of success with Goblin Giant. I think maybe a little bit more of a health buff, or maybe a little bit more DPS on that Goblin Giant. It's really not that rewarding when you get him to the tower, as it should be for a 6 elixir investment, a tanky card at that. So I want to see a little bit more of us, another small buff to the Goblin Giant. Next up is going to be Zappy. Zappy's another card like Tesla that went from first to worst after that nerf. They called it a rework, not even a nerf. Personally, I think that Zappies need a little bit of a buff again. They can be an annoying card when they're OP, but I don't want to make them OP. I just want to make them relevant again. So I'm going to go ahead and ask for a buff to the Zappies. I don't know what the appropriate buff would be, guys. Maybe you guys have some ideas, but you know, at the risk of being uncreative, I'll just go ahead and say a small DPS buff on the Zappies. And then next up on the list, man, we're running out. I think that's everything. We got Archers, we got Tesla, we got Zappies, Goblin Giant, Inferno Tower, and Bomber. That's it. That's all I had for you guys. So what do you guys think? Usually they do 8 cards at a time. I've talked about probably 20 cards in this video. What cards did I forget about? I know, inevitably, no matter what kind of balance change video I do, people are like, where's the Golem and where's the Hog Rider, Ash? Where's the Golem? Where's the Hog Rider? I don't truthfully think, even though they're popular cards, I don't think that either of those win conditions personally needs a nerf. That's just my opinion. I know most of you probably disagree with me, but I have to be true to myself, right? So that's how I feel about those cards. Other cards people might mention are Royal Hogs. I think that they're really good, but I don't think that they're overpowered personally. I think that they're just good. And what else would people... Oh, Royal Giant, right? Royal Giant and Elite Barbs. Royal Giant needs a nerf. Elite Barbs need a buff maybe. But at the end of the day, just as I kind of predicted, hate to say I told you so, but I still think that it's that issue, that over-leveled on ladder issue. They're a nuisance and annoying and deserving of a nerf on ladder, but they're probably deserving of a buff, especially Elite Barbarians, one of the worst cards in the game at tournament level standard. So where are you buffing? Who are you catering to when you're balancing this game? Those cards for me will always be in a separate box. The box called, I don't know what to do to those cards. Like, I don't know how to fix those cards other than converting them to rare or doing something really drastic, like a really big rework. So if you guys have any answers on those cards, I'm all ears. Can't wait to see your opinions in the comments below. Hey guys, thank you for watching all the way till the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Huge shout out to Bren Chong, my YouTube partner. Check out his information in the description below. Thanks again, and as always, take care, guys.